Hey everyone, it's Jeanne Tarazevits from Terabyte Solutions. In this clip from our January webinar, I'll walk you through converting QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online when you're using Fishbowl Advanced Inventory and the critical mistakes to avoid. Let's dive in.
All right, the topic for the day is converting from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online when you have Fishbowl Inventory Advanced. So fundamentally, QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop, the only thing they truly have in common is the logo. Completely different programs, completely different interfaces, completely different logic, etc. So therefore, the integration between Fishbowl and the accounting software is very different for the two of them. So we have some do's and don'ts that we should do when we're moving. Fishbowl with QuickBooks in QuickBooks Desktop, Fishbowl uses the API to do all the account mapping and post all the entries. In QuickBooks Online, Fishbowl has to use an item list. So what's really important is that you bring no items over from QuickBooks Desktop. Those legacy items will mess things up. I had a guy yesterday, he converted QBD to QBO, and all of his items came over from QuickBooks Desktop mapped to the wrong general ledger accounts. So we can fix those, and fortunately we caught it early enough that he didn't mess up his books. So that's one thing that's important, is make sure that the item receipts, the items in QuickBooks Desktop do not come into QuickBooks Online. And the way to make that happen is to go through and make everything inactive. If you have legacy items with on-hand quantities, you're going to need to set those to 0 before you do that. Okay. Then we need to have a strategy for handling item receipts. There is no such thing as an item receipt in QuickBooks Online. So the Intuit conversion tool turns all the item receipts into bills. And what's going to happen is you're going to have them in as bills. And then as you reconcile your item receipts in Fishbowl, it's going to send over a duplicate bill, and it's going to send over a reversing entry for the quote unquote holding account. You need to have a strategy for doing that. The easiest way is to have no item receipts at all, reconcile everything. If that's not practical, we need to clearly mark the ones that are item receipts and offset them before we can before we migrate, okay? So that we don't have a negative balance in our holding account. And then one of the fundamentals is you're going to do, when you go to integrate Fishbowl with QBO, it's going to have you wipe out all of your existing mappings. So before you make that migration, you want to export out your PPV and print your default account mappings so that you can import that PPV back in before you do your first post to QBO. And as part of this process, it should be a very, very focused review of how you have things mapped in Fishbowl first. Because unlike Desktop, with Fishbowl and QuickBooks Desktop, if I have a mapping mistake, I can correct it in Fishbowl, and Fishbowl will correct it moving forward in Desktop. In QuickBooks Online, if I have a mapping mistake, it continues over to QuickBooks Online, and you have to fix it in both places to make it happen. Okay. So we're going to verify our account mappings, our vendor mappings, our customer mappings before we convert. Okay. And then be aware that there are things that you do not get to have with QuickBooks Online. Multiple AR accounts, multiple AP accounts, the ability to map discounts to more than one account. So because it's using an item, FB_discounts, it can only be mapped to one account. So if we're using discounts, map for various reasons into various different GL accounts, you will lose all that. You're going to have to turn it from discounts into items. Okay. And then another thing you're going to lose is you do not have the option of having a journal entry, have a customer in QuickBooks Online, because Fishbowl wrote it that way. And so that becomes a challenge. All right. So we will publish this.
And that's what you need to know before moving from QBD to QBO with Fishbowl. If you found this helpful, hit thumbs up, subscribe for more Fishbowl tips, and click the link below to book a free consultation with me. See you next time.